So it's a very simple, very elegant solution to the hotel business, and I'm sure it works in any size. The problem with the big hotels, you need to break them down into bits.
Yeah.
For example, if you take a floor, a hotel that has 2,000 rooms, and you take a floor that has, let's say, 60 rooms. If that floor were a cluster, you would have solved it.
Yeah. And are you intending to do this with more hotels, or was this an experiment and then seeing?
It was a bit for fun.
Yeah.
But
because you also helped the local community. When I saw it in the videos in the beginning, also some of it was local staff.
They're all local.
They're all local.
Our criteria is very simple. We have this recruiting process, which is people came in, and we had the first 4 or 5 people who were going to be involved with the hotel sitting around, and they would interview them for 5 minutes each and pass them on, and just write down the name of whom they thought would be of any use. And then they took those and had more conversation with those, and then those came back and so forth. But one thing was pretty clear: if the person had any hotel experience, the chance was very small that they'd be hired. And so we have lots and lots of kids who are local kids who now, of course, are constantly getting, they keep getting job offers all the time, of course, to go somewhere else. But there's no enormous incentive for them to go, because if the occupancy is high, they make a lot of money, and they set their own work times. They choose their own leaders for each of the areas or for the clusters. So there's no there's no management in the hotel. There's nobody in HR, and there's only one person in accounts who puts the accounts together. But each of the people is authorized to pay the suppliers directly. For example, the guy who buys wine and replaces the wine, he pays what he thinks he has to replace. But he sends a check through the system. He authorizes a check to the wine person. Doesn't go to central purchase. And that's, to all these people, it's just crazy. To hotel people. But now we've had an enormous amount of general managers and directors of Accor, Four Seasons, Marriott, staying at the hotel. An enormous procession. We had, I think, over 50 of these big chain executives all wanting to understand how this works.
Because
people from Cornell want to started writing a case.
Okay. Well, I just had a student paper. She's doing Accor Novotel 2.0, and she was saying they're having a system called PERT, and that is at least about employees connecting with customers, and I believe they have picked up some of those ideas, but I should check that further.
One thing they did in that sense in Sao Paulo, I checked into one of their hotels the other day. I checked into a hotel, and the person has a name tag which says the names of, and then says what they like. So you say, here there's a personal, but it says football, music. What the hell? What am I going to do with that information? And why would you want to engage with a person at the reception? Oh, you like football? What team do you? Do you really want to go into a conversation about that?
It's so superficial, all these things. Yeah.
So the problem is, if you don't redesign the architecture behind, all of the tricks at the front aren't going to work.
Just tricks. Yeah. That's what's wrong with those CRM. We have an expert in CRM also, but that's the problem with those systems. Like, I know you like this kind of pillow. That's not the issue.
No. And so we've reduced very much, as a matter of fact, everything that has to do with giving an enormous amount of choice on the type of pillow, type of mattress, So one assumption of ours is to say that you've transferred, or you've outsourced to us for this weekend your decision about the experience. So let us take it. Yeah. The mattress we chose, we think you're going to like.
Yeah.
And of course, you need an anti-allergic design, but everything's already anti-allergic anyway. Yeah. Everything's already. We have those Swedish mattresses, which are are wonderful, much more expensive than the other ones, but we get no complaints ever. And so we really did what we thought was the best and what you think you're going to like. And there are no decisions to make. There's nothing to spend on. There's no, even in the rooms, not only minibar, but liqueur and all these things. We're not charging. Don't worry about money while you're here.
Exactly.
You can't
if you're
tip
paying
anyone.
800, you might as well get the full. Nice.
But if you go to hotels, even Relais Chateaux and so forth in Europe, for 600, 800 years, you still have all these problems.
Yeah.
So it's not the value that did away with everything else. It's the architecture of the system. And then, so these people, they exchange. We don't say anything about, look, you need so many people, and when there's a check-in, and when they're all adults. This is, I think, the big difference. Sometimes they're 21 years old, but we say, you're an adult. Sometimes they already have a kid. You know that if there's going to be a check-in at midnight and no one's here, it's no good for us, for the occupancy, for your side. It's no good.
No.
So figure it out. I don't know what you're going to do. Call someone.
Yeah.
Come back after dinner. I don't know.
Sure.
And so people solve their own issues in a very constrained labor regulation market.
It is, okay.
Yeah. It's a very, very tough regulation about the number of hours, how much you can go over
the
per
Netherlands
day.
also has that.
Yeah. And we have all that in place, and we said, take this. There's this too.
Yeah.
Comply with this regulation here.
Yeah.
And they do.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know. Our experience in general, we have the same experience with schools as well. We now have 3 schools, which are the same.
Lumière,
Yeah, Lumière, yeah. Lumière is just the same old thing all over again, except with kids.
Okay. My wife works for the Rolo Steiner School. And she works with 3.5-year-olds.
Anthroposophic.
Yeah. So that kind of pedagogy.
Which again is a bit like holacracy, because it has many good points, has good solutions, but it's also a cult.
It can be a dogma.
Yeah.
It can be. Luckily, some of the more modern teachers there
They don't apply it entirely. Anyway, so the fact is that this is really about how it's an issue in anthropology, sociology. How do people relate to each other? Whether it's business, hotel, school, I think makes almost no difference. Because it's really just how do you reinvent a bit, take the best out of what humanity has learned, to assemble it in a way that makes sense. And in hotels, it's easy. I wouldn't even say it's relatively, it's easy. And the hotels, the fact is today, what happens is that a site like Booking.com or Hotels.com is killing the margin of the business. Because for €30 less,
and Airbnb is now one of the
that's another problem. Like Uber for the taxis. But the point is, you say, look, here I have for you, you want to stay at a Mercure of Accor or a Kempinski or a, you say, I don't care.
It's all the same. Yeah.
I'm not going to know the difference. No?
It's really true.
So it's really, to an extent, all of these industries, they take themselves, like the car, like the airlines, but they take themselves from a win-lose situation in which someone wins, for example, the airline itself, or the pilots, or the plane manufacturer, or the passenger, to a point where it's lose-lose for everyone. There's not anyone left who wins in most of these industries. In the car industry, in the airline industry, in the hotel, there's not in the car rental business. There's no one left who wins anything. If I say to you, look, choose now between Hertz, Avis, Budget, Europe, car, and so forth, your question is how much? Isn't it the same car? So the ultimate result of this enormous uniformization is uniformity. And once you have uniformity, it's commoditized and there's nothing left to the business. That's why I keep asking here, what's happening on the essence of their business space? I don't know. Are there people ready to move in and sell the same thing? Could someone come up overnight who gives a 2-year policy, and there could be many innovations coming in the way people are buying things, no?
Yeah, sure.